On this episode of the Brand in Demand Show, we got Jason Vana here, who is a brand expert. Also, I would consider Jason a friend of mine. We met on LinkedIn probably 2 years ago, somewhere around there. And he was talking about a lot of branding stuff. He was doing a ton of marketing in his full-time job. And then a while back, we were just chatting and stuff. And I remember you reaching out and being like, "Dude, I'm getting ready to." He was building this side hustle and having a lot of success at it, helping people do branding and marketing and copywriting and things of that nature. And then you're like, I'm getting ready to make the move to the full-time business and leaving the full-time job. And it's always really cool, man, because I feel like we have similar stories in that way. So I'm excited to talk to you, man. I know the audience is going to get a ton of value from you. So welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I said when you asked me if I wanted to be on the podcast, I was like, we should have done this a while ago. Really excited to be here and have this conversation with you.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. So real quickly, man, and I'm actually curious about some of this stuff too. So were you originally just doing marketing and then you got into branding? Like how did you go from the marketing or branding, or were you doing both?
So I was doing both. For most companies, they don't actually have like a brand department or a head
Right.
of brand unless you get to really big. They usually don't hire for branding. And so before I made the jump to shift, I was working at a B2B company as the first marketing hire. And really, what I did there was primarily branding more than marketing. So I was doing a lot of brand campaigns, a lot of brand
Mm-hmm.
tactics to build the company, really build the brand as the premier vendor for their ideal
So
customers. And so, yeah, it's kind of I did all of it, but I like to tell people I'm a brander who knows marketing, not a marketer who knows branding.
I gotcha. So give us the difference, because I know there's a lot of people listening right now. Like, I'm not really sure branding and marketing. Like, aren't those kind of the same thing? Like, what? How do you define the difference between
Yeah,
brand and then marketing?
yeah. So I think for most people, they see branding as like a marketing tactic. Like marketing sits here, branding is just one aspect of marketing. And for most B2B companies, that is how they're structured, that's how they think, because they don't fully understand what a brand really is. So here at Shift, myself, Steph, we kind of adopt Marty Neumeyer's definition of brand, which is basically a brand is the gut feeling someone has about you, your company, your product, whatever you're branding. It's the gut feeling they have. And if you really
Mm,
dive deep into this and you think about it, like when you have a gut feeling about someone, a company, like you have that perception of them, it's built on far more than just their marketing. So a few examples I use actually is so let's say you're calling into a company, like you've got a question, and the
mm-hmm.
receptionist who answers the phone is like incredibly rude to you. It's kind of like, yeah, well, whatever. Well, that builds a perception of who that company is in your mind. Or if you hire their services, and I mean, we're both in the service business, so like someone hires your services and the onboarding process is ridiculously clunky and overwhelming, and it's like, I don't even know if I finish this. Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Like, I thought you said this and that. Like, all of that builds a perception. And so when you think about branding, it's far more than just the kind of four P's of marketing. And especially most people see marketing as only promotions. So brand is far
Mm-hmm.
more than promotions. It really is like the experience that I get from your operations is just as much brand as the ads you put out on LinkedIn or the product that you're building or the service that you give. Like the quality of that is just as much brand as the content you put out or customer service, customer support, the process I go through in the sales of your company. Like when I'm meeting with a
Yep.
salesperson and how that happens is just as much brand as anything you do marketing wise. And so that's kind of the difference is we say brand is a business function, not really a
Yep.
marketing function.
Yep, I agree with that too. So for a B2B company listening right now,
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of frameworks out there, like there's Story Brand, which
Hmm.
is Donald Miller, I believe is his name. He wrote a whole book on it, and he kind of walks through like your customers on a journey, on the buyer journey, and you are the guide, and you help position them as the hero through this journey, and they see success, and boom, it's they're the Luke Skywalker, and you're the Obi-Wan Kenobi. What's your
Right.
guys' framework? If I'm a company listening to this right now, I'm like, man, brand sounds good. We probably need to work on this. Where do we start? Like, what's the framework?
So for us, there's kind of five steps we take people through. First is we call it just foundation, where basically what we're going to do is discover what is that sweet spot of opportunity for your business. And when I say that, like picture a Venn diagram with
Mm-hmm.
your market as one circle, your customer as the other, and you as or your company as the third. And so what is that overlap that like you can be different in the market and supply a need for an ideal customer? Like, what is that sweet spot of opportunity? And what we found in most B2B companies is they don't understand what that sweet spot really is. And so that step is more of a initial perception. What's in your head as a company that you say, this is what makes us different? So we kind of start there to get your perception. Next step is very much understanding your ideal customer. And what I mean, say that is like, I don't mean just like they are this size of a company and this is their job title and stuff. Like, that's all great. You need to know that information, especially if you're going to
Yeah.
target on like LinkedIn and stuff. But really, what you need to know is like, what are their psychographics? What are their beliefs and values? And even further, like, what is that? We call it the aim, but it's really like, what's that ideal state that they're trying to get to? What are they ultimately after that your solution can kind of help provide? And then taking it even a step further and asking, what is that underlying motivation or tipping point that gets them to really be willing to put money to your solution? So, for
Mm.
instance, like you run a business, you know this just as well as I do. Like, there are some pain points that you're not willing to put money on. It's like, yeah, it's annoying, but like we'll use
Yep.
Zapier, we'll do this, like we'll figure it out.
Yep.
Like
For
for
now.
us, we're
Yep.
we're a little frustrated with Monday right now, and it's like, you know what? It's not worth dumping a bunch of money into solving right now because we know like the
Right.
whole process is going to be difficult and whatnot. It's a pain
Right.
point, but it's not worth investing in yet. So really what you
Mm-hmm.
need to know is what's that tipping point for them that says, all right, I'm willing to put money on this to solve this pain point, because everyone has pain points, but what's the pain
Mm-hmm.
point that's like, I'm willing to solve that? Figuring all that out, we interview them, we build out that customer file. So really, when you talk brand, understanding your ideal customers is key. Like, it is the foundation of everything. You can't write a good brand message. You can't do Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads. You can't send a good email if you don't deeply know your ideal customers. And so for most people, when they're struggling marketing wise and they're like, I'm not getting results, my initial answer is, or question is, how well do you know your ideal customers? Because if
Mm-hmm.
you're struggling, you probably don't know them because you're just shooting something out there that you think sounds good and hoping it
Right.
hits someone. So we do that. Next step is uniqueness, like what actually makes you different. And for most B2B companies, it's we're the best, we're the greatest. We have, like all these kind of messages. And it's like, that doesn't, or the worst is like, I'll
Yeah.
sit in with clients or like prospective clients and they're like, well, they should like, because I always ask why, if I'm an ideal customer, why should I buy from you? Well, we
Yeah.
do this and this and this, and I'm like, great. So do these 100 other competition your competitors that I pulled up on Google. So that doesn't answer the question, why you? When I can get
Mm-hmm.
the same thing from them, now you're just competing on price. So
Right.
why you? So we figure that out, do brand messaging, identity, all that. Um, so that's kind of step three. Step four is the experience in every aspect of your company. What is that underlying experience you want people to have? So when they don't know you, down to I am a raving, like I am an eye whore, I buy everything Apple. Like, what is that process to get you from what the heck is Apple down to I will never buy another piece of equipment that doesn't have an Apple on it again? What experience do I need to have? And like, I love to use this example is like, if you walk into a Mac store or an Apple store and you look at the MacBooks, they angle those MacBooks at a precise angle, and that's part of their brand experience. Because what needs to happen
Mm.
is for you to look at the screen, you have to touch the machine and move it. And what they found is like
Mm.
when you have that tactile experience of adjusting it to yourself, one, you feel the quality of the Mac and it's not plastic.
Yes.
It's like, ooh, this feels
Yes.
good. And if
It's
you
like
are
good
actually,
sunglasses where like they
yeah,
just fold different. They just fold differently. Yeah.
yeah, and you grab it and you move it, like there's a little bit of feeling of ownership in it as you like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm getting it to my right angle. Like they found that like that experience itself drives sales. And so
I
what's
love
that
it.
experience? And then from there is when we do, so that's all like strategy side.
Yep.
Then the
So
final step
let
is the
me,
activation.
okay. So let me, a couple follow-up questions on that.
Yeah.
One, where would you, like, if someone's listening right now and they're like, I don't really think I know our customers as well as you're talking about here. And I think that's the
Yeah.
case in a lot of situations, right? Like, oh, I know
Yeah.
the title, the company size, the certain industry, but like psychologically, do you understand your customers? And truly, where do you suggest people go if they're listening right now and they don't feel like they really know their customer as well as they should?
Yeah. So the first step I would say is like get on an interview with them. Jump on a
Yeah.
call, ask them questions. And when
Talk
they
to the source.
yes, yes. And here's the thing too, like when they give you an answer, don't just default to that's the answer. Ask why does that matter to you? Because like
Boom.
I'll talk to people and they're like, "Well, they choose me because they like my personality." That's not why they chose you because you can leave that company and go someplace else. They chose the company for a reason. And so asking those follow-ups like why does that matter to you gets you down into that nitty-gritty, that like real reason. And so we usually do like 5 or 6. They give an answer, why does that matter to you? They give an answer, okay, why does that matter to you? To really get down to the source. So you can do it there. The other ways would be like kind of stalk them on social media, see what they're consuming, what they're liking, that kind of thing. But ultimately, the best way is just talk to them. Like I
Hmm.
say this a lot, like every business decision that you need to make in your company, every bit of insight that you're lacking is locked in your ideal customer's brain. So if you ask them, you'll have, should we onboard this way or this way? They will have an answer. Should we provide this or this? They will have an answer. You can, as you interview more and more people, you'll get a sense of like, this is ultimately important and this is not. I also heard, oh, what's his name? I can't, Alex Hermosi. He did one of his podcasts. He asked 2 questions to ideal customers to get a sense of like what's actually important. If and these are customers that are already working with you. Of
Okay.
everything I provided you, what could I take out and you would still pay for? What did we do
Mm.
that you're like, if you took this out, I would still pay you? That'll show you like what's fluff that you shouldn't be doing. And then of all the stuff that I gave you, what's the one thing you actually would have said I would pay for this by itself? That will show
Mm.
you what they're actually coming to you for. Because a lot of times as business owners, we're like, oh, they want this and this and this. And it's really like, if you can trim it down to like, this is actually what they need and want
Hmm.
and deliver that, but you're not going to know that if you don't actually talk to someone who's gone through your process or your service or your product and said, okay, on this SaaS platform, what did you not use or not care about? In this service, what did you not use and not care about? Well, I can strip that away and you would still pay for it. So now
Yes.
that's not important to you. So I don't have to mention that in any of my marketing because that's not what got you to buy.
This is so important. I hope you guys are taking notes if you're listening to this right now, because I think as business owners, entrepreneurs, people that are running companies, like we oftentimes, like you're probably thinking like, how do I grow my business? How do I scale my business? How do I produce more pieces of content? And I think this is the stuff that like is not as maybe sexy or as seen in the public eye.
Yeah.
It's not as flashy as like a cool video, but it's the behind the scenes stuff that literally will make or break your content, your marketing, your sales execution, your operations. And so it's like,
Yeah.
I found multiple times in business, Jason, you probably felt the same way. There's times when I was like, hey, slow down on sales and
Hmm.
marketing for a second and let me just like refine our product and
Yep.
service. Let me actually focus on the customer and be obsessed with their experience and how we're onboarding them and the processes and the systems. And then what that did is just create better products and services, a better experience, and that creates more referrals, and that gives you the fuel to create better videos and marketing and content. And so like if you just slow down for a second in your business
Hmm.
and you focus on the customer, and we talked about where do you get the insights, where do you get what's the mystery, where do you get all this good stuff for ideas, and I'm like, dude, go talk to your customers. That they have, like you said, Jason, everything that you're trying to unlock for better content is
Yep.
in your customer's mind, and then your job is you got to take that and you got to put the creative spin on that to make it perform, right? Because your delivery matters, right?
Right.
Let me go somewhere else. So what if you're a
Yeah.
company right now and you're on LinkedIn, you're putting out content, you're like, I think, we got a pretty good reputation, like we have a good product or service, but we're in a really crowded space, like recruiting. Like what would be your advice to a company that would say, even though maybe they shouldn't say this, but let's say they're saying, I'm a commodity. Like there's so many players in my space, and me and you are in crowded spaces too, like marketing,
Right.
branding, like, but what would your advice be to how do you build a great brand if you're technically sort of a commodity? Do you shift focus a little bit, or like what would you do?
It really comes down to figuring out what is that uniqueness or differentiation. So, what happens in crowded spaces is most people are competing on their product or their service, and that's why they feel like a commodity. Like, hey, 500 there's 500 other people that sell this thing that do recruitment, and so if you are putting yourself out there as we're just another recruitment firm, you're a commodity, and that now you're competing on price or your
Mm-hmm.
package, like what you offer. And so how you flip that is really, it's where brand comes in, is to understand why people buy you as opposed to everyone else out there. And it's very rarely what you actually think it is. So I talk to a lot of companies, I do a lot of brand messaging evaluations. I look at the hero section of their website and say, okay, how are you communicating your differentiation in 3 to 7 seconds so people understand why you? And most companies, it's we're the best, we're the top rated, we're this, or like, using the recruitment example, we'll help you find the ideal customer. Well, every or ideal candidate, every
Yeah.
recruitment company should bait like entry level, like this is the
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 job.
first step to be in the game, is you should find me the
Right.
ideal customer or ideal candidate. So like,
Yeah.
what actually makes you different? So let me give you like a tangible example of this.
Please. Yeah.
Branding is a very like crowded space as well, especially now with all these small freelancers talking about building a personal brand and we'll do this.
Dude.
And it's like, most of them I look at and like, you don't even know the foundation of brand building. You are a content person. Like you don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
do this, but whole other conversation. But like, it's a crowded space. There are a lot of
Yeah.
marketing agencies that say they do branding. Like, so
Yeah.
it's a very crowded space. So what we did is we came in and said, okay, how are we going to say we're different? And where we hang our hat, our differentiation is that while we'll give you the 90-page brand book with all the research and all the like, you get these brand books and it's like, oh, look at how pretty it is and all these messages. And then what inevitably happens is the company looks at it and it's like, now what? I've got this
Mm-hmm.
fancy brand book. I've got this thing that tells me my archetype is the ruler, or for us, it's the renegade or the rebel. Like, awesome. What does that mean? That means nothing to me. We've actually had prospective clients send us brand books they got from other branding companies and said, they gave us this. What do we do with it? So
Yeah.
our differentiation is we'll give you that. We give you everything. But then we give you these one-page strategies that very clearly lay out what do you do with this. So for example,
Mm-hmm.
we'll write your brand tagline. And then underneath it, it tells you take this tagline, stick it at the top of your website, put it in your email signature, use it here, use it there, use it in your pitch decks, use it, this is how you use this message. So we show them we basically say our ideal customers don't know branding. So we're not just going to give you the strategy and give you the campaigns and say, here's what it is. We're also going to hold your hand and say, now here's how you use it if you don't have an internal person who understands how to do it. And 9 times out of 10, the reason people buy from us is because, like, in the sales process, I literally show them, when you get a brand with us, here's what you get. And look, it tells you how to use it. Very rarely are branding agencies saying, here's how to use it. Like, this
Maybe
message,
because they
here's
don't know, Jason. Maybe because
um,
they don't know.
well, and I
As
will say
crazy as
that,
that sounds.
no, I will say that's true, because there's a marketing agency in the town. There's a new marketing
Yeah.
agency in the town that I work from and or live in. And one of my friends works at a company that hired them to come and work with them. And they did the whole, like, here's your brand archetype and stuff. And she's like, we looked at it and
Yeah.
we're like, what the hell does this even mean? Like, what the hell is a brand archetype? And I'm like, did they not walk you through, like, what to do with a brand, like how that impacts your sales and your marketing? No. And I'm like, I know they didn't, because what they did is they took another branding agency's materials, stuck it in the brand book, and said, this is what we did for you. They didn't even do it themselves. And I'm like,
Right.
this is why brand agent or other agencies don't show you how to use it, is they don't know how. But if brand really is this, like, overarching impact sales and marketing and operations, you have to show people how this stuff works. And, like, how does the rebel archetype impact your discovery calls? Well, it does. But if you don't know how, you just paid for fluff. And so that's kind of where
Right.
we hang our hat, is we're going to train you. How does this work throughout your entire company?
I love that, man. I think before you hire a marketing company or a branding company or any service based company, I would look to see, do these people live it themselves?
Yes.
Because I'll tell you what, man, when you live it every single day, like I live video, I put out all types
Mm-hmm.
of different video, regular creations, inside, outside, edutainment, skip videos, rap battles, repurposed, like all types of different video content, and pretty much daily. So when I'm talking about stuff or implementing stuff, I can clearly say this is probably not going to work, or this is going to work, and here's why. There's a lot
Yep.
of companies out there right now, like, we're video experts, and they got some strategy that they're going to help you deploy. Meanwhile, they post one video a week and haven't really seen a ton of results from it. So it's like, when you live and breathe in something, the operators, the true operators, they can help you with the strategy, the clouds up top, but they can also get in the weeds with you and actually get shit done because they
Yeah.
live it themselves. And I
Yeah.
always wonder too, Jason, like, if you're so convicted in your product or service, then why aren't you doing it yourself? Like, it doesn't make any sense, dude. To me, like, I'm excited to implement the stuff that we come up with. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, dude, this is impacting our business. This is driving results. This is creating better customer experience. Whatever it is, I'm pumped to actually implement it because I want to use that myself. I know what it's going to do.
Yep.
So, how do you mentioned personal brand, right? And that's a big thing on LinkedIn right now. Like, you got to build your personal brand, and there's a lot of, like, personal branding experts out there, and hey, go post and be yourself. We all know the advice, right? And I'm sure there's
Yep.
some good ones, right? I'm trying not trying to knock
Right.
everyone, but
Right.
how do you look at personal brand versus what you're talking about earlier in this, pretty much this whole conversation, which is like building a company brand?
Yeah. So I think the biggest, what's the word I want to use? Like, the statement I hear the most from people when we talk personal branding is, the importance of personal branding is, they pull out Elon and Tesla, and they say,
Yeah.
well, Elon has this many followers, Tesla has this many followers, so focus on your personal brand. And while I believe a personal brand can be very powerful, um, a personal brand that is pushing a crap corporate brand is not going to drive sales. So, like, I use this example. If Tesla put out cars that broke down after 100 miles, that you needed to
Hmm.
rebuy a $20,000 battery after a year, doesn't matter how big Elon is, you're not going to buy a Tesla. If anything, that crappy corporate brand is going to come back to Elon, and people are going to say, he's a snake oil guy. He's a scammer. He doesn't actually, his products aren't that great. So, like, why listen to him? And he would literally blow up. So the
Yeah,
goal,
he wouldn't be as big as he was if the
yeah,
products were shit. The only
right.
reason he's as big as they are is because he's built legitimate companies time
Well,
after
and
time.
Steph and I, I'm glad you brought this up because we have a podcast episode dropping not Monday, but the next Monday. I think it's the 30th on personal branding and our thoughts on this. And one of the things that I point out in this is, um, like most personal branding experts that you see on LinkedIn, they don't actually know branding. They're
Right,
content
right.
people that have maybe talked about the be authentic, be yourself. But like if you actually ask them, how do I figure out my ideal customers? How do I figure out what actually makes me unique? And how do I double down on that? How do I actually generate revenue from it? They don't really know. Because this idea of personal branding, like I asked Steph this question in that podcast, like how many major CEOs of all these big companies that you buy from, do you actually know their personal brand? How many can you name?
Oh,
Elon, maybe
yeah, not many.
Bezos, you know, Steve Jobs when he was alive, like, you know, maybe some of these big companies, but like I buy Dove Men's Care. I have no idea who the CEO is. I don't buy because of the personal brand. I buy because of the corporate brand. Like
Hmm.
there's and Amazon, I don't buy because of Jeff Bezos' personal brand. I could give two craps about his personal brand. I buy because they have a great corporate brand that fulfills its promise, that gets me what I want when I want it. Like there's other reasons you buy. And when you look at guys like Elon, like Gary Vee, like some of these guys that are like personal brand, they're actually the outliers and not normal. What's normal is
Right.
you have a very solid corporate brand. And so, like, let's even take this down to like a small business level. If you have any fathom of a goal of selling your company, focus on your corporate brand. Because if you build your company on your personal brand and everything comes from your personal brand, when you try to sell, people aren't
Yeah.
going to want to pay you as much because the second
If
you
you,
leave, all the
yeah,
money for the company is gone. So if you
yep.
don't have a solid corporate brand, you'll never be able to sell. Um, I look at some of these freelancer guys, and I don't know how you are about calling out names on your podcast, so I won't. But like, there's some big names on LinkedIn that have built their brand on their personal brand, which is great. Like they make a lot of money, that's awesome, but they'll never be able to sell because it's all based on them. And the second they decide to quit,
Right.
it all dries up. So if you have
Yes.
started, like for me, at some point,
That's
we
not a
will sell
business. That's
ships.
just employing. That's employing yourself. Like you don't have a
Yes.
business if you cannot leave at some point and the business could still run, then the business is you, and basically you're just self-employed at that point,
Yes.
right? Which is still cool, but it's different than building a company. So I think you got to
Yes.
figure out like what am I trying to accomplish here? What's the
Right.
vision? What do I want to build? Because there's no right or wrong. Like right, you can be a one person
Exactly.
show. Whatever you want to do. But I think man, I got a lot of things to say on this. First of all, I think like the reason that Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant Cardone and Alex Hormozy are able to they've had as much success in the personal branding space is because they've built actual businesses and
Yes.
companies. And I think people forget that. They're like, oh, I'm going to get on LinkedIn and like talk a bunch of stuff. And as I work my full-time job and like, I want to become like, the next massive influencer. It's like, well, you got to have the stories and the
Yes.
substance and like the credibility. I'm not saying you need all of it from the get-go, but if you haven't built anything but your personal brand on LinkedIn for the last 10 years, like that's not what's there to look at. What are you going to share
Yep.
with people? They're like they want to know that you've done something, you've accomplished things. And I also think that we're in a weird place in business right now where people like are obsessed with startup companies that have just raised millions of dollars and haven't even launched anything yet.
Yeah.
And then like we crap on bigger companies because they're bigger and they're bad or whatever it is. And reality is those bigger companies, they've accomplished what those startup companies are trying to do. And they've
Yep.
built the processes and the systems and the SOPs and they've hired people and they've scaled different divisions and different, locations. And I think there's a lot like there's pros and cons to startups and bigger
Hmm.
companies and I love them both. But I think like it's a weird time period right now where like we love the startup stuff sexy. And when you grow a company, it's like not as sexy, just like the individual LinkedIn influencer that's, doing their side hustle or whatever. That's sexy, but then it's like there's people that are building $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, even $500,000 businesses. And Jason, from being in business, that's not easy to do.
It's
like,
not.
it's not you just wake up one day and you got $1 million business. It takes a lot of work. And so I think we need to celebrate the people that are building actual businesses and really hiring and making an impact on other people, not just the single influencers.
Yeah. And it's why, like, I kind of, and I'm Sassy Jason, so I do this a lot, but like, I kind of chuckle at those influencers that like are trying to just build on LinkedIn. Cause it's like, they give this advice and I'm like, yes, if you want to be a freelancer for the rest of your life,
right,
follow that advice. If you're actually trying to build a business, that is crappy. I don't know if you're okay with swearing.
Right.
That's crappy advice to even consider, because that's not how you build a business. And like, that's where some of them get frustrated with some of the stuff I put out, because it's like, I think you're the same too. Is like, when it comes to content, we talk about education and entertainment. You're a lot better at the entertainment side than I am, but like, you have to be educational. And then there's some people that are like, no, just be authentic and be yourself. And I'm like, there's two different audiences that require two different strategies. If you are a freelancer that is going after smaller businesses, sure, be authentic, be that you might grab them. But if you are building a business and you're trying to build a corporate brand so that people trust the brand, like, there's a different tactic here. Like, I look at guys like, and I use this example when Steph and I talked about this, I look at guys like a Justin Welch. Like him or not the point here. If you look at his content, he's built an empire on LinkedIn. All of his sales, everything he's done has been on LinkedIn. I can count on one hand the number of times he shared a vulnerable, personal, authentic post. He is like, most of these personal branders are like, just be authentic, just share your story. Like, the whole, like, you might remember the whole, like, the fake stories of, I hired a homeless person as a CEO. That was a personal branding tactic that all these personal branding experts were telling you to do back then. And people seem to forget that, but it's like I told Steph in our podcast that we did, the whole crying CEO, 100% that was a personal brander's idea.
Yes, dude.
100. All these personal branders, just be authentic. That's where this just be authentic leads, is I'm going to stage authenticity because authenticity is the goal. And I'm going to cry and I'm going to pretend and all that kind of stuff. That is a personal branding tactic taken to the extreme. But if you look at guys like Justin Welch, that all these personal branders are like, they engage with his content. They're like, yes, I want to be the next Justin Welch. He doesn't share anything personal on LinkedIn. So you're saying do the opposite of what he does to get his results? Not going to happen. So it really comes down to, and you said it, what is your goal? What are you actually, are you trying to be a freelancer? Are you trying to build a business? Don't listen to freelancers on how to build a business, and don't listen to businesses on how to build a freelance. Like, two very different tactics here, unless they've been a freelancer. Like, I think this is where Steph and I, my business partner, we kind of like have a foot in both worlds, is we both were freelancers that launched an agency. So we know how to make the freelance side work, and we know how to make the business side work because we've been in both. But then you've got these freelancers that are like, well, here's how to start a business. I'm like, you don't run a business. You have no clue how to start a business,
Yep. Yeah, man, I think it goes back to like the purpose. What is the purpose of your content, right? And then what are the goals attached to that? Because if you think about that, if I ask you like, well, if you're putting out, a bunch of authentic posts to get attention, what's the purpose of your content? Is it to get attention and have people like sort of have, sympathy towards you or empathy? Is that the goal of your content? Because I know for me, the purpose of my content, if I could break it down very simply, would be mindset shift. I'm trying to get people to understand how video is the modern way to build trust with customers and credibility. And it is the gateway to every relationship that you can form. It's the gateway to attracting your dream clients. But then I'm also taking the mindset shift, and then I'm also now teaching them how to do that. Because if I just say video works, it helps do this, it attracts this, and I don't teach people how to do it, Well, now they're going to look at me like, oh, Alex told me video was so amazing, and I went and tried to do it, and it didn't work because I just pulled out my
Right.
phone and shot random videos, right? So I got to be able to educate them and teach them
Yes.
how to execute on that overall strategy or mindset or point of view or narrative that I'm bringing to the marketplace. So I think that's really important. I heard someone say the other day, man, I won't say names, but I heard someone say, go back in your camera roll and look at your last 50 pictures or videos in your camera roll and just create content based off whatever you see, because that's how you're going to humanize your content. And and look, I have much love for everyone, so if that's what someone wants to do, by all means do it. You're not going to get hate or shade from me, but I couldn't help but sit there and listening from a strategy standpoint and a tactic. Like I was like, if you're really trying to build a brand and trying to use your content to generate revenue, like that really for most people is not going to do it. And so it's like sometimes you just got to bite your tongue and like, all right, well, everyone's got their take, everyone's
Yep.
got their opinion, and sometimes you just got to roll. But so what would your advice be to, we'll close on this, what would your advice be to a leader, an executive, because we got a lot of people that listen to the podcast too that are like executives. Maybe they're not the founder, the CEO, the business owner, but they are like a leader in the company and they have a lot of influence and they lead people. And so like maybe they're the kind of the owner of their division or of their market, right?
Right.
What would your advice be to them to build their personal brands? Aside from like not company, because maybe they don't have
Right.
control of what the company does, but like them on their own, they're at a satellite office of a bigger company and they've got
Right.
20 people underneath them. Like how did they build their personal brand?
I always say it comes down to this. You need a strategy. Whether, obviously you don't need a full corporate brand strategy, but like before you start posting, before you like jump in, like I'm just gonna post whatever I want, ask yourself three questions. Who do you want to, or what do you want to be known for? And
I love
in
that
this
one.
case, it really depends on like what your ultimate goal is. Like if
Yeah.
you want to generate money, what you want to be known for needs to tie to that revenue. If you're trying to get a new job, what you want to be known for needs to tie to whatever that new job is. So if you're like a marketing director and you want to be a CMO, all of your content better be around marketing because that's what you want to be known for. That's the end goal is I want to be a marketing expert. So one, what do you want to be known for? Who are you trying to target? So, like, again, if it's a new job, what kind of businesses are you trying to target? If it's leads, like I want money from a business, who are your ideal customers? Who are you trying to target? Know who they are because that will help you determine what type of content to put out, what topics of content to create. That's going to tell you what platforms to be on, where to double down, what to create. All of that is answered by there. And then three, what is the purpose that you're using this platform? So if you're trying to build on LinkedIn, what is the purpose? Is it leads? Is it a new job? Is it you just want to be a thought leader? Because there's a different strategy behind each one of those goals. If you want to generate leads and money for your company, you better be creating educational and entertaining content that attracts your ideal customers. If you want a new job, you better be showing you are an expert in that role, in that topic. If it's marketing, you're a marketing expert. If you if you
I
are
just lost your video, by the way. It says change the battery pack. We can pause though because it's not live or anything. So
if you're looking to be a thought leader, there's a different style of content you need to create. So those are the three things I would say. Build that strategy first and then focus there, because if you focus there, that's what's going to build content. um, the more that you the more you focus your content on a single topic, the faster you build that association in people's minds. So it really is a psychological thing. The more you focus, the more people associate you with the topic that you write about or post about, create videos about the most. So if you want to be known as a great marketer, talk more about marketing. Don't talk about the trip you took. Don't post selfies. You can do that, but the majority of your content better be around the thing you want to be known for, because that's just how the human brain works. If I see, like, for you, Alex, you're the video guy in my head, because every time you
mm-hmm.
post, 80% of the time that you post, it's a video and it's about video. So I know, like,
Right.
every time I see your icon, your little profile picture pop up, you're the video guy.
Mm-hmm.
100% know that. That's how content works. And so I use this example, like, if you jump on your LinkedIn feed, this is how most people view content on LinkedIn. I see your post, you talk about video, great. I see the next post is about this, and the next post, and the next post, and the next post. The next day I see your post. If you're posting about leadership, okay, video leadership, and then, 3 posts down, I forget what you posted about. The next day, now
Yeah.
you're posting about a trip you took.
Yeah.
Okay. Next day, you're posting about, something completely different. All of a sudden, I've seen over 5 days from you. I've seen 5 different topics. I've made no
Right.
association in my brain about what you do. And
Right.
that's where a lot of this personal branding advice falls short, is that it is all about be authentic, be this. Well, great. But now I need video help. And all you've talked about is your family and your trip and how life is different for you. You're not even a possibility of a solution in my brain, because I don't even know you do video, because what you've
Exactly.
talked about is not what you want to be known for. And so, yeah, that's kind of the advice I would give, is answer those 3 questions and then build your content around there. You will see faster results that way than just jumping on LinkedIn and posting whatever you want to post about.
There you have it, folks. There you have it. This is the Brand in Demand show. Y'all got some branding stuff today. I hope you guys are taking notes. So, dude, I appreciate you being on the show, Jason. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And sorry the video cut out.
All good. All good.
Stupid
All good. And don't
technology.
forget, if you're listening or watching, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We put out videos like this every single week. And if you're listening to the podcast, please get subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you next time.